Why is every YouTuber trying to make a streaming service now? Streaming services at first were another way of watching content. Netflix back in 2011 to 2016 was probably the golden age of streaming services. Netflix had everything. You could watch thousands of hours of good quality content without getting bored, all for one low price. Netflix nowadays is like, fuck it, we'll stream the Jake Paul fight. Streaming services have undoubtedly fallen from grace now that every single company has tried making one. When there's a trend that involves money, you know YouTubers will try chasing it and milking it to death. I've noticed especially in the last year that YouTuber streaming services are becoming more and more prevalent, especially with Watcher and Second Try. So are these streaming services made by YouTubers any good? And why are all these YouTubers trying to make streaming services in the first place anyway? First up is the streaming service that started it all, Dropout. College Humor was a website turned YouTube channel that had a pretty big success in the early days of YouTube, with series like Hardly Working and Jake and Amir, along with many other shows. In the later years of the channel's operation, profits started to fall, with YouTube's algorithm not paying enough for sketches, especially for the more mature ones that College Humor were making at the time. This led to the creation of Dropout as a way for College Humor to make more adult shows and hopefully profit a bit. The streaming service had an instant hit with Dimension 20, hosted by Brendan Lee Mulligan, but further expanded into hit after hit shows, with stuff like Actually and Game Changer, especially Game Changer. I actually think that for YouTuber streaming services, Dropout really knocked it out of the park first try. The shows that it has are actually distinctive enough and are so successful that it ended up killing College Humor, with the branding being retired in 2023. So while there's no more sketches, there are some really genius shows on here. My personal favourite show on here is Total Forgiveness. It's a reality show where two of the CH writers would compete in challenges against each other to pay off their student loans. It's a great watch along with Game Changers, and I'm super excited for the upcoming Dropout Presents stand-up show. For $8 a month, I think it'd be unfair to call this a YouTuber streaming service when it's become so much more than that. This is a streaming service by comedians for people who want to laugh, and it's worth every dollar. Another pretty popular one is Nebula. While Dropout focused on the creation of more original content which departed from what it did on YouTube, being a transition from sketches to television content, Nebula is perfectly fine with letting their creators be themselves, with many Nebula creators uploading the same day as they would on YouTube, but without ads and sponsors. Nebula has a focus on edutainment and video essay content, featuring creators like Legal Eagle, Captain Midnight, Game Maker's Toolkit, H-Bomber and Man Carrying Thing. The main hook of Nebula is the exclusive content and the fact that you're supporting creators on it. Nebula pays its creators, quote, 50-50 between the creators and standard. The creator pool is paid based on watch time, which is pretty cool I guess. So if you have a creator you really like to watch that's on Nebula, not only does the $5 a month go towards them, but also part of a fund pool. Nebula however falls flat for me for two reasons. I don't think any of this exclusive content is worth paying for, but that just might be because of the creators who have exclusive content on here aren't what I'd normally watch on YouTube, and that there are much better ways to support creators if they have the option. I can put my $5 towards H-Bomber on his Patreon and get actual exclusive content that he hasn't put on Nebula while also giving him more of the money. So while I can definitely understand subscribing if you watch a lot of these creators, it's not really for me. The Sidemen have a streaming service. Sorry, I just had to say that because I had no clue this was a thing. I don't watch the Sidemen, nor do I really care for their content, so I'm relying on what other people say for this. Side Plus is the Sidemen streaming service, which allows you to listen to their podcasts, get access to exclusive Q&As, behind the scenes content, and be able to enter their giveaways and even star in their videos. Now at first I thought this was kinda stupid. Who would pay $9 a month for just Sidemen videos? But then I realized that the definition of that is just Patreon or Coffee, so now the Sidemen can probably interact and give their fans better content due to the direct access of it. Not only does Side Plus actually have a decent amount of exclusive content, but genuine things that fans of the Sidemen would want to consume. So I genuinely see this as a win for people who want more Sidemen content. So you get a pass in my book, Side Plus, for now. Corridor Digital also has something very similar to this, acting as a Patreon alternative like Side Plus. You get a D&D campaign, behind the scenes, tutorials, extra shows, and stuff like that. For only being $4 a month or $40 for an entire year, this is actually incredibly good if you want to support the Corridor crew. So if you're a fan of this channel, I definitely recommend subscribing to this. I don't know much about these two creators, but if you want to support them, this genuinely feels like a great way too, while also giving them the opportunity to create more unique content. Floatplane is Linus Tech Tip's streaming platform, and it is pretty unique on this list because it's not really like Nebula or Dropout. It's a Patreon alternative, and not in the way that Side Plus is like a YouTuber's Patreon. Floatplane is directly trying to compete with the business of Patreon. For example, Tyler McVicker is on here and has multiple tiers that you can subscribe to. It's Patreon. It seems mostly dead. A lot of the creators I clicked on hadn't uploaded for several months, not really sure what to make of this. It also seems to be like a production company for Linus, so it has that going for it as well. But other than that, it just seems like a work in progress Patreon alternative, which feels weird to say because it launched nearly 4 years ago. Finally, onto the most recent two announced, Watcher and Second Try. Watcher was announced on April 20th, 2024 and quickly became disliked, bombed and hated because of how out of touch the announcement was. Watcher was trying to do what Dropout did, transition from YouTube into TV streaming quality. But while college students would upload clips and continue to release regular standard YouTube content like their sketches during the transition from their regular uploads to Dropout, Watcher were completely pulling out of YouTube and going straight into their streaming service. This combined with an announcement video lacking self-awareness.
We want to keep the price low enough where anybody and everybody is able to afford it. We regret stating and implying that it's a price that anybody can afford, and we fully acknowledge that it is not.
It was a move that was destined to fail. 3 days later, they issued an apology and changed the model to be more like a Patreon type, where you get ad-free early content, which I think is ironic because they already had a Patreon. But no, let's be fair. What kind of groundbreaking videos do they plan to leave YouTube for? It's just fucking Let's Plays and stuff you'd normally find on YouTube. The fact that they were going to leave YouTube and put a paywall on watching Ranbu play Lethal Company with them was a complete misread on how YouTube streaming services are functioning right now, and I'm glad there was such an outcry. This is ridiculous. Moving on to other ex-BuzzFeed employees, the Try Guys. The Try Guys seem to got it nailed with their Patreon-like subscription service Second Try. For $4 a month you get access to the same content they do on YouTube, but extended, ad-free, and uncensored. All the same content will come to YouTube, but just later and shorter. Like Watcher, the Try Guys also have a Patreon, but they announced that they were pausing payments on it until they fully figure out what they're going to do with it. Which I really respect, and so far out of all the ones so far, this genuinely seems like the best deal. It's only $4 a month, you really support the people making the content, and you get more out of it. I wish them luck with this endeavor. Let's circle back to the question I asked at the start of the video. Why are so many YouTubers making streaming services? And the answer, like many answers, is money. Whether you want to actually expand into making new groundbreaking content, leave the YouTube platform entirely, or just have a way for your fans to support you directly, it seems like YouTube streaming services are here to stay. But I do fear this may overcomplicate things a bit. As with Patreon, sure, you support multiple creators, but it's all on Patreon, it's all on the one website. This is all over the place, which definitely reflects how we're responding to bigger streaming services too. It definitely seems like a lot of these creators got the idea to do a streaming service after they saw how successful Dropout was. Like Watcher making the choice to leave YouTube to make their own streaming service definitely feels inspired by Dropout. Well, with that whole topic out of the way, I think it's finally time I announce my streaming services, Thor Plus, where instead of getting my videos early, each morning you get a 30-second voice memo that I recorded while waking up. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it.